Lady and the Tramp. One Christmas morning, Jim Dear gave his wife Darling a very special present. It was wrapped in a box and tied with a pink ribbon. When Darling opened it, a tiny Cocker Spaniel puppy peeped out at her. "How sweet!" cried Darling. "What a perfectly beautiful little lady!" And that was how Lady got her name. Lady loved her new home. She had a big garden to play in and bones to bury. Her best friend Jock and Trusty lived nearby. Jock was a small black Scottish terrier. Trusty was a big brown bloodhound. When Lady was 6 months old, Darling gave her a smart blue collar. The little spaniel rushed off to show her present to Jock and Trusty. "My, you're a fully grown lady now," said Jock. Lady felt that she was the luckiest, happiest dog in the whole world. A few weeks later, Jock and Trusty found Lady lying in her water bowl. She looked very sad. "What's wrong, lassie?" asked Jock. Lady explained that Jim Dear and Darling seemed cross with her, but she didn't know why. "I wouldn't worry," Jock said. "Darling is expecting a wee bairn." Lady looked puzzled. "He means a baby," explained Trusty. "Oh," said Lady, still puzzled. "What's a baby?" "A baby," Jock began, "is a cute little bundle of—" But before he could finish, a voice behind him said, "Trouble!" Lady turned round to see who had spoken. Walking towards her was a scruffy but handsome mongrel called Tramp. "Remember, when a baby moves in, the dog moves out," he warned. The baby was born that spring. Jim Dear and Darling were overjoyed, and so was Lady. Some time later, Jim Dear and Darling went away to visit friends. Aunt Sarah came to look after the baby. She brought her 2 Siamese cats with her. The cats were sly and mischievous. They raced through the house, frightening the canary, ripping the curtains, and upsetting the goldfish bowl. When Aunt Sarah saw the mess, the cats made it look as though it was all Lady's fault. Aunt Sarah was very angry. In fact, she decided to buy a muzzle to restrain the little dog. So she took Lady to a pet shop that very day. As an assistant placed a muzzle over Lady's head, Lady panicked. She managed to wriggle free and leapt off the shop's counter. She ran out of the door into the busy roads. Cars and lorries whizzed by. As she dashed across the road, Lady was nearly knocked down by a car. Terrified, she ran into a side street. Suddenly, a pack of stray dogs jumped out and began chasing her. Lady fled down an alley to try and escape, but a huge fence blocked her way. She was trapped. Just as the dogs were about to attack her, Tramp jumped over the fence. He was a very fierce fighter and could quickly force the other dogs back the way they had come. Lady had been saved. Tramp walked back to Lady, who was shaking with fear. "Oh, you poor kid," he said, looking at her muzzle. "Come on, we've got to get that thing off." Tramp led Lady to a nearby zoo, where they soon spotted a beaver. He was gnawing through some logs to build a dam. Tramp persuaded the beaver to use his strong, sharp teeth to bite through Lady's muzzle. In a second, the muzzle dropped off and Lady was free again. As the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Tramp said, "Come on, it's supper time." He led Lady to the back door of Tony's Italian restaurant. "Hey, Joey, look who's here," called Tony to his chef. "Bring them the best spaghetti in a town." When Tony and Joe played soft romantic music, Lady and Tramp shared a delicious meal. What a wonderful night, thought Lady, beginning to chew a strand of spaghetti. Suddenly her lips met Tramp's. They were both eating the same strand. Lady blushed, and the two dogs gazed dreamily at each other. They were falling in love. After supper, Tramp took Lady for a stroll in the park. As a reminder of the evening, the two dogs put their paw prints side by side in some wet cement. Later that night, they fell asleep together under the stars. The next morning, Lady woke with a start. "Oh dear," she said, as she suddenly remembered, "I must go home to look after the baby." Tramp tried to persuade Lady to stay with him, but she was determined to go home. Finally, Tramp agreed to show Lady the way back. As they approached Lady's home, Tramp spotted a hen house. "Ever chased chickens?" he asked Lady. "Certainly not," Lady replied. "Then you've never lived," cried Tramp. "Follow me." Tramp began chasing the chickens around the farmyard. Feathers flew everywhere. Lady was horrified. Suddenly there was a gunshot. "Come on," shouted Tramp as he squeezed her under a fence. "That's the signal to get going." Tramp and Lady dashed round the corner. They splashed through a stream and jumped over ditches. Tramp was racing ahead. When he turned around, Lady was nowhere to be seen. She had been caught by a dog catcher. Poor Lady was taken off to the dog pound. Lady's eyes filled with tears as the door of her cell clanged and shut behind. Later that day, Lady was surprised to find out that all the other dogs knew about Tramp. It seemed he had lots of other girlfriends. Lady felt sad and disappointed. She had thought she and Tramp had a special friendship. She decided to forget him. Before long, Aunt Sarah came to collect Lady from the dog pound. She was very cross with Lady for running away. When they got home, she chained Lady to a kennel in the garden and yelled, "Stay there! Don't you make any noise or I'll send you back to that pound." Lady was too miserable to do anything but lie there. Even her good friends Trusty and Jock couldn't cheer her up. That evening, when Tramp came to visit, Lady refused to speak to him. As Tramp left, Lady felt so unhappy that she lay down in the kennel and cried. Suddenly she noticed two eyes glinting in the shadows. A huge rat was scurrying towards the house. Lady barked and tried to chase it away, but her chain held her back. Luckily, Tramp heard Lady barking. He ran back to see what was wrong. "It's a rat!" cried Lady. "It ran up the side of the house and into the baby's room." In a flash, Tramp was inside the house, running up the stairs and through the nursery door. The rat was about to jump into the baby's cot when Tramp leapt at it. The cot toppled over and the baby began to cry. Tramp chased the rat around the room. There was a terrible fight. Finally, Tramp trapped the rat and killed it. Outside, Lady managed to pull free from her chain. She raced inside the house and upstairs to the nursery. But Aunt Sarah had heard the commotion and had come rushing into the nursery. "Merciful heavens!" she cried, staring at the mess. The dead rat was hidden behind the curtains. Aunt Sarah only saw Lady and Tramp and immediately blamed them. "You vicious brutes!" she shouted, pushing Tramp into a cupboard with her broom. Then she dragged Lady downstairs and locked her in a dark, damp cellar. Aunt Sarah telephoned the dog pound and ordered them to come and take Tramp away. As Tramp was being led to the pound wagon, Jim Dear and Darling arrived back home. They rushed inside the house and were met by Lady, who had managed to escape from the cellar. Lady began barking and led Jim Dear up to the nursery. She showed him the dead rat behind the curtains. Lady knew in her heart that Jim dear would understand that Tramp had killed the rat and saved the baby. Meanwhile, Jock and Trusty were following the scent of the pound wagon. They were determined to try and free Tramp. When they finally caught up with the wagon, Trusty barked at the horses. The horses reared up and the wagon overturned. It crashed to the floor, trapping Trusty's leg behind. Then the wagon door sprung open and Tramp leapt free. Suddenly, a taxi drove up with Lady and Jim dear in it. Luckily, Jim dear had realized that Tramp had rescued the baby. From that day, Tramp was welcomed into Jim dear and Darling's home forever. A few months later, at Christmas, Jock and Trusty came to visit Lady and Tramp. As they arrived, 4 little puppies ran to greet them. "They've got their mother's eyes," said Trusty. He looked fondly at 3 of the tiny puppies. "Aye, but there's a bit of their father in them too," said Jock, trying to stop the 4th puppy chewing his coat. Behind the puppies sat Lady and Tramp. Tramp looked down at his family and smiled. He knew they would all live happily ever after. The end.